Welcome to part 14 in this series of videos where we're creating a birthday reminders application using Blazor and C#. In this video, we'll look at restricting menu items. Currently, we have two pages, Email Test and Hangfire Dashboard, shown as options on the main menu. Email Test has the useful feature that although it's called Email Test, it has a button that can manually trigger reminder emails, whilst the Hangfire Dashboard is not something that should or needs to be exposed to users. One way to restrict the menu items is to assign myself to a group in Azure and then test for that when the menu is loaded. However, it struck me that I was already getting the email address of the logged in user and that I could use that instead. This has the advantage that I have the code already and is relatively easy to implement. And I'll describe this technique in this video. Maybe I'll return to the Azure group method, as this has probably wider application and is certainly more flexible. The tasks for this particular video is to copy the code we've already got on the index page to the nav menu for establishing the current user. We will then amend nav menu to restrict access to Email Test and Hangfire to non-admin people. I'll also want to redesign the Email Test page and rename it to Manual Emails to get rid of the superfluous instructions that we've got on that page and to make the button more specific. I'll also take the opportunity to delete some redundant menu items such as the counter and fetch data and their code that's behind those. So let's have a look at the C# code. On nav menu, we want to limit access to certain menu items to specific users. In my case, I want to limit it to just me, and it's these items here that I want to limit. But we've got no way at the moment of determining who the currently logged in user is. But we do have that on index. So if we have a look at index and scroll down to the code, the first thing we do on initialized async is we get the currently logged in's user email address. So we can basically copy this and paste it into nav menu and make a few more changes, and then we'll be able to have access to the email address of the logged in user. So I'll copy that and I'll go back to nav menu, and I need to put that code in the code section, and it needs a closing bracket. But we've got these red squigglies because we haven't declared various things that we need. So back in index, we've got at the top these using statements that we need to access the identity. So I'll copy that and paste that at the top of nav menu. And the last thing we need are the declarations of these variables. Again, we've got those in index, so I can copy and paste those as well. And it's the user email and these other items, the cascading parameter and claims principal. So I'll copy that, paste that into nav menu, and this can go after these other declarations. And we should now have no red squigglies. I don't think we need this, so I'll get rid of that. With that in place, we need to limit these two items to a specific user email address, and I'm going to use mine in here. So I'll put an if statement around this to deal with that. So I've got the code prepared, so I'll just copy and paste. So now I've surrounded the menu items for the Email Test and the Hangfire Dashboard with an if statement saying if the user email is me or somebody else, then only these items will be shown. I've shown this here just to show that it could be more than one person by putting this or statement in here. So if we run this now and log in as me, we should see these items. If I log in as a different person, they shouldn't be there. So let's test that. Right, first of all, I'm going to log in as myself. In previous videos, I've skipped the login, but I'm showing it here so that we can illustrate what's happening. And with me logged in, I can see these two items and I can get to the pages. If I now log out and log in with as a different person, try this. I don't see the email test or the Hangfire dashboard. So I'm logged in as Chris Green. So that appears to work. Now, before moving on, I've got to admit to two sins in this. Firstly, I've copied code, breaking the do not repeat yourself principle. It would be much better practice to move the code used to determine the user email address to a separate class and call it from both index and nav menu. Sadly, I haven't done this. Secondly, I've hard-coded the two email addresses I'm permitting to access the menu options. If I wanted to add, delete or change an email address, I would have to change the C# code, requiring republishing the whole application. I did consider moving those email addresses to an array in appsettings.json and then reading that array. But things got far too complicated, and since this is only a simple application and I only imagine I will ever be the one person administering it, I didn't think it was worth the effort. However, I would like to redesign the email test page. So let's have a look at that. At the moment, it shows the various email SMTP, but I don't want to have that any longer. So we've got all these settings up here for email providers. I'm going to remove those. But I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to rename email test manual reminders. And I'm going to change the title to be manual birthday reminder emails. And I'm going to delete this div with the information about the SMTP information. And I'm going to replace it with a div that describes what the button is used for. I'm going to copy and paste some code in here. And I'm going to change the description on the button. So those are the changes I want to make on here. So it's effectively just cosmetic, but I've changed the routing to manual reminders, so I'll need to change the nav menu to that as well. So I'll copy that, go to nav menu, and instead of email test, we'll have manual reminders, and here we'll have change this item to manual emails. So let's see how that looks now. So I'll log in as myself to start with. And we can see we've got the manual emails, and that page has now been changed to something more easily relevant. And we've got the Hangfire dashboard as before. But there are a couple of other changes I want to make. I want to get rid of counter. I want to get rid of fetch data. And this about button sends the user off to a Microsoft ASP.NET documentation page, which is really the last thing that I want any user to do. So I'm going to get rid of these, and I'm going to get rid of about. So let's set about that. We'll deal with the easy things first and get rid of the menu items for counter and fetch data. And now we'll get rid of the pages. So we've got fetch data. I can just delete that. Counter, I'll get rid of that as well. I can get rid of the weather forecast service and the weather forecast class. And there is one other place that would catch us out, and that's on Program CS, where we've got this add singleton for the weather forecast service. So let's delete that. So that gets rid of the redundant menu items. The about appears on the main layout, and it's this line here, which, as you can see, goes off to a separate website, the Microsoft documentation one. I'm just going to comment that out. But it does occur to me that this is only a simple system, but it might be helpful to have a help page. That could be just another Razor page with some text on it, describing to the user how the system is to be used. For a more complex system, that could actually go off to a separate website with the documentation for the application. Those are the changes I think I need to make. So let's test it one more time. Again, I'll log in as myself to start with. And we've got no about up here, and we can see the manual emails page and the Hangfire dashboard menu item. Now I'm going to log out and log in again as the other user. And having logged in as the other user, all I've got is the home page, and with no about. There are two things to note with this. First of all, I should have changed the title up here. I'll probably do that between this and the next video just to tidy it up. But more seriously, I'm logged in as somebody called Chris Green. If you remember, the login email address was something like blazercode@gmail.com, but I'm actually looking at the records for Christopher Bell. And so I don't want any user to see any other users' reminders. So that's going to be the subject of the next video, how to restrict the list of contacts here to those belonging to the logged in user only. So that's for the next time. Thank you very much for watching this video. I'll put any links to relevant pages in the description, and the next video should be coming along relatively soon. Thank you very much.